Welcome back to Beyond the Buckets. It's my pleasure to have Coach David Magley. Welcome to the program.
Thanks, Chris. We're excited to be on.
Man, it's great to catch up with you. I know you've been moving and shaking, getting this league together, the basketball league, and I'm excited to talk about it. So let's just dive right in. Tell me about the TBL. What can we expect for those people that may not have heard about it?
Well, the basketball league is TBL stands for the Basketball League. We're real creative in our naming of the product.
Yeah.
We're entering our fourth year. The first year we were 8. The second year we were 10 teams. The third year last year we were 12. COVID hit, shut us down early. And honestly, Chris, we had two choices. We could sit down. Most of our teams are on payment plans, and you're kind of tone deaf, and you're trying to raise money from people that haven't had a chance to finish their season, and their core businesses are getting hurt as well. So you can say, man, we got to shut down, and I don't know if we can come back. Or we go, nah. God gives you a vision, He gives you provision. Let's go forward and make it work. And we were really fortunate that, the Syracuse Stallions joined us. And when they did, it's just, the world just opened up and it started coming. And one by one, I think because we were in business and no one else was, people were going, wait a minute, we don't even know if there's going to be a season or when how are they doing this? And the more the momentum built, the better it grew. And here we are now with 35 teams. And what's exciting about that is 420 young men will have a chance to play professional basketball, get paid, get exposed, play live stream, have great stats, great uniforms, good venues, and get a chance to travel the world because our guys get jobs all over the world. All these extra teams create a much better travel synergy for the leagues. So, costing factors for the teams go way down when you have that number of teams in any single pod. So we're able to have 8 divisions, 4 conferences, and it just fits nicely into our 24 game schedule now.
Yeah.
And then I think that it's just a thing that there's opportunities for coaches and people that work in the stadiums and announcers, and there's just a lot of showcasing that gets to go on in this league this year. So we're really excited about it.
Tell me about all the logistics, because I run a club basketball program and we have 40 teams, but they're all local. So, we can maneuver and we have our surrounding areas that we book the gym times and all of that. There's just so much that goes into such a big production like this. Tell me about some of the logistics and how they play into, what you do on a day-to-day basis.
Well, a lot of what we do is make certain that everyone is first of all being engaged in our community. And so there's a lot of communication. Your brother Wiley works with the teams on a regular basis, answering a lot of questions. Sourcing the players and the coaches is the easiest thing to do. Yeah. Everybody wants in the league. It's a really good opportunity. So finding them is simple. Making certain that we get what makes us unique is this community asset piece. If we can become an asset to the community, then we really are what the vision is, which is impacting young lives. Then B, we can monetize that because people want to support something that is engaging like that. For example, you were in Las Vegas just this past weekend, yep, and you all went out and delivered food to people that were less fortunate.
We did.
What a wonderful thing you do for the right reasons. You feel good about yourself. But for us, we're also proud of that because it says that's what makes us hashtag a different league. And in doing so, we're proud that our commissioner would take his Saturday and go do that, because there's not a lot of people that want to serve their way to success. They want to just get paid, and that's just not how this works.
Yeah. So if anybody wanted a team, what are the steps they would need to take to be able to do that?
The first thing they would do is contact me. Mm-hmm. In the last 2 weeks, we've been hit up by we've been in Forbes magazine, New York Times, USA Today. Some of that is getting Steve Francis on board. Mm-hmm. Some of that is, we just were good fortune with the New York Times article. So just yesterday, I had 13 inquiries into being in the league.
Wow.
And they all came in through info@thebasketballleague.net. And I don't give them anything they ask. They all want to know, well, how much does it cost? What's the parameters? I require everyone to call me and talk to me, because I want to understand if it's a good fit before we go through all that. I don't want all of our stuff everywhere if people really aren't qualified or aren't interested. I'd rather talk about what they want to do, because it's often somebody that's run a lower level team that says, "Hey, I'm a player. I got a bunch of guys. I got a team. We want to be in your league." Man,
Yeah.
it's a lot more than that, bro. And it's going to cost you more money. It's cost you more to get in. Cost you more to run. And we want you to be community standouts. And if I go on your webpage and I see a bunch of Kush smoke flying around and all the empties that you drank that weekend that you're proud of and disrespecting women, it's just not a fit.
Yeah.
So we really have those conversations first. And then we send out a packet of about 6 different emails that is a ownership deck, a budget, and a film on the league, game film that they can see, articles written about us. And then we just talk through how it can work. And virtually everyone has a payment plan that we work with if they're the right. We're trying to give guys opportunities. They're not everybody that owns a team isn't worth $5-10 million. They're worth enough to get through the season, and then they got to work and make it work.
Right. You have the blessing to work beside your wife. She is the boss. She is the CEO. And tell me what that dynamic is like working with your wife.
Well, if you've seen my wife, she is smoking hot. So again, for me to get to be married to her, just to see her on the daily is I'm really fortunate.
You
It
outkicked your
is her
coverage.
vision.
You outkicked your coverage just
Way
like
out.
me.
I I've looked like this my whole life, Chris. I didn't just get ugly overnight. I've always been funny looking. So I had some game back in the day.
Yeah, I
But
know.
what she does, my wife gives us direction that I can't give. You know, I'm the straight up coolest white dude you ever met,
Right.
but I ain't never been black. So
Yeah.
even though my kids are black, my wife is black, I really don't know what the black experience is from experiencing it.
Sure.
I don't walk in the store and anybody watches me because of the color of my skin. They do
Yep.
you.
Yep.
When the sirens go by your car, your heart pumps a little faster than mine does.
Hmm.
Those are things that are just real. She's experienced that. So she gives us a different direction as a CEO than anybody else does. And I'm
Yeah.
proud of that. And we celebrate that.
Yep.
As far as the husband wife relationship, it's been an adjustment because she's not in sales. So she wants to know everything. And she's gonna jump in when I'm talking on the phone and, hey, what you talking about? I'm like, yeah, I'm not used to anybody being in my space like that.
Yep.
But she just wants to learn. And I am very anxious about her in the process. But every time I just let her talk, she always does the right thing. And she says, it's not from a sales perspective, it's from a pure vision perspective. And people are attracted to that. So I've had to learn the last couple of years how to let go and let God and let her do her thing. And she's really good. I mean, she's really good at it. So I'm really proud of what she does. And people love her. I mean, our guys will walk in and they're like, Mama Mags, what's up? She's like the mom of the league.
Yeah.
And they'll say what's going on. They'll ask for prayer. She'll cry over them. I mean, she genuinely loves our kids, and that's unique because I know Adam Silver likes those guys. I don't know if he loves them like that. So to have a
Yeah.
CEO that cares like that's pretty cool.
You spoke about it briefly, but you got interracial children, and so do I. And my children are relatively young. But what was it like growing up for them? Was it hard for them to find their identity? Being in an interracial relationship, or them being interracial anyway.
I think I was told one time, well, it's good for you two, but how about those poor kids? They won't know if they're black or they're white. And I'm like,
Yeah.
at the time, I'm like 50% of marriages end in divorce. If I love their mom, then they're going to feel good about themselves no matter what they're seen as.
Yep.
My kids are extremely confident. They're very good looking for them to have a dad that looks like this. So mom's genes were pretty strong,
Yeah.
but they the boys was very simple. The girls was an adjustment. It's not easy, um, but I think it's more being black than being interracial.
Right.
It's not because of me so much. It's because that we've been fortunate enough to be successful enough that we've lived in relatively white communities and they've gone to relatively white private schools and so the girls, they have not been around a lot of people that look like them,
Right.
not interracial, but not just black, period.
Yeah.
So when we lived in Kansas, it was like they're beautiful girls, but it wasn't like they got all the attention I thought they should have got from boys. And young girls, they're aware of that. We moved to Florida and a lot more people look like them. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden it was amazing how much better looking people thought they were.
Right.
So there's a little bit of that. But besides that, we've never had much of an issue. I remember one time we just had the two girls. We have four kids, two girls, two boys,
Mhm.
all college athletes, played for their colleges. And we had just the two girls. And I'd had a long day and we were eating at a rib place in Akron, and this little old white lady was just looking at the table,
Mhm.
lips all pursed out, just staring at us. And I told Evelyn, my wife, I said, baby, if she says something to me, I'm gonna tell her what's what, because I'm not in the mood today.
Yeah.
So sure enough, she gets ready to pay her bills and she walks right by my table. She walks right up to me and I know she's a racist. She's a Klansman. She hates all things of what we're about. And she looks me dead in my face and goes, Mister, I want to tell you something. I said, what you got to tell me? You have got the most beautiful girls I have ever seen. It's just how she looked. And I
Wow.
spent that entire time looking at that pursed lady. And she looked like that because she probably didn't see very well. So
Right.
when she pursed up, I had assigned all of this negative energy to her. And I felt so bad because I wonder how many times in my life I thought somebody thought something that wasn't true.
Right.
So I don't worry about. Now I'm also 6'8", 300 pounds. So if you're gonna say something, you're gonna have to want something. It's
Yeah.
not like a normal person. That's you're gonna have an issue if you say something to me. So we haven't. I've been. She is my wife is my absolute best friend, and I can tell you, if you want to raise great kids, love your wife. That's
Right.
what I encourage these guys. You want to do something for your children, love their mom. Well, I'm not with the mother of my kids. I don't care. That doesn't mean you can't respect her. You can't
Right.
still love her. And that's the encouragement I have. I know Wiley's a good one.
Mm.
He loves his ex because that's the mother of his child. And
Right.
that's what's important. We want to make certain that we encourage our young men, whether they're in relationships or not, to always respect the mother of their children, because that's going to change the world. The kids are going to feel so good about themselves if you love their mom. And sounds simple, but it really is that simple.
Definitely. A couple things that you mentioned that I want to touch on. One is just not reading a book by its cover. Such an old cliche, but it's so true because you know every anything in your mind can go to a negative place, but rarely do we go to a positive place. And in
Mhm.
that particular situation, it very well could have gone the way you thought it was, but
Mhm.
it's so refreshing, and it's a reminder to us all that we kind of need to fall back and just let things play out and see how they go, and not have any preconceived notions about whoever it is that comes in our path just because of the way we look. And I would say that our kids are going to be identified as black because that's what the world is going to see. But that doesn't mean that they don't have the other culture in them. They are also white, but the rest of the world is going to see them for their skin color.
Mhm.
The good news is, in my opinion, the world is changing. It's becoming more brown. So, there's so many more interracial relationships that are taking place, and it's just a beautiful thing. And you really hit the nail on the head, man. You talked about the love. You regardless of your situation, have love for your spouse or significant other, or children or children's mother. That's so important, regardless of whatever the actual relationship is. And us as people, we can really think about that as well. We got to love each other more. If COVID hasn't, and these racial injustice moments haven't taught us anything, it's about love.
Well, I tell you, one of the great things, it's tragic to say great things around somebody dying like George Floyd,
Right.
but one of the great benefits behind that was we got to see how many truly ignorant people there are at times
Yeah.
who don't understand what's going on and say stupid things that people go, no, people don't really think that. No, they do. But the bigger issue is the blessing of how many white people came out to march on behalf of black people and about
Right.
social justice and stating, somebody, I know a friend that says, well, man, the Black Lives Matter movement is this, the Black Lives Matter movement is that. Let me tell you something. I don't know nothing about the Black Lives Matter movement,
Right.
but I do know that all lives can't matter unless Black lives matter. So
Right.
I embrace the statement. And if you can't embrace that statement, there's a problem. I mean, it's not about following what their social agenda is. I don't know what that is, nor do I care. But I do care the fact that all these people, white people, again, a lot of these protests were more white than black,
Yeah.
stepping out saying this has got to stop. That wouldn't have happened 10 years ago, 20, definitely 40 years ago. No way that would have happened.
Right.
And so our country is evolving. and
Yeah.
the awareness is evolving, and that's important. I don't care whether the country gets colorized or not. I just want them to be more accepting, and I think that's what we're seeing.
Yeah. No doubt, I agree with you. And anytime there's growth, it's because there's some sort of pain, and you know the world has seen that pain firsthand, and I'm looking forward to where we go from here. Give me a quick origin story from Indiana, All-American in high school, Indiana Player of the Year. Give me a little background for some context.
Well, I just grew up in South Bend, and didn't know I was a great player till I became a great player,
Yeah.
and had a lot of really good players around me, and older guys that challenged me, and played with a lot of unselfish players that allowed me to be good. I mean, when you score 40 some points in a 52-point game, you know, you better have some unselfish guys in your team, or else
Yeah.
you're going to be pretty miserable.
Yeah.
And so that helped me become a pretty good player. And you know, I didn't grow up wanting to be an NBA player or even a college player. I just wanted to play at the high school. If I could be good enough to play at LaSalle High School, that'd have been a pretty good career. And then I got there and I was a little better than that. And I kind of got to go on to Kansas and go on to play in the NBA, and all that stuff worked out pretty good for me.
Now you at Kansas, you were there right before you graduated, right before Larry Brown got there, huh?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I would have. Sandwiching my years is Magic Johnson. We played against him the year they won the championship,
Hmm.
and then we played against Michael Jordan his first game as a freshman. So that was
Unbelievable.
a time frame when I was in college.
And what was it like
Yeah.
playing against those two legends?
Magic beat me like an unwanted stepchild, and I gave Michael a little bit of something, but the difference is you're wearing his clothes, you're not wearing John Magley, you're wearing Air Jordan, so he did a little better than I did.
That's true. Got the branded still, so that's a really good story.
There you
Uh,
go.
Kansas has such a great lineage. So many great players have gone through there. Tell me about your time there, and just the camaraderie that everybody that goes through that program still has, whether that be a kid that has recently graduated, or went there. Most of the kids are one and done now, like a Kelly Aubrey, or all the way back to your time. Rex Walters and yourself and so many others.
Yeah, you know what? You know, we've been fortunate, especially now. Bill Self has been great. I mean, he has us back all the time, and if I text Bill right now, he'll text me right back. And I was a good player at Kansas, but I'm not worthy of that kind of respect. He treats everybody that way,
Yeah.
and you feel welcome to come home, even though it's not your coach that's there anymore. Because at first, it's like someone else is living in your house when somebody else takes your coach's place.
Yep.
But Bill was great, is great, and we've just been really fortunate. Um, it's an amazing place to go to. The field house is packed, and being from Indiana, there's tradition, there's everything that we ever want is right there. So I've loved it. It's been awesome.
One other question. How was playing high school in Indiana? Obviously,
Well, it's you know what, Chris, imagine going to your JV game before your varsity game, and when the bus pulls up with both teams in it, and the gym's already packed, or there's a
yeah,
line outside. It's just every game is in front of 3,000 or 4,000 people.
yeah. I went out there for the Adidas Gauntlet tournament a couple times, and it's just amazing. Those high schools have so like there's like 5 gyms at each one of the high schools. It's ridiculous.
It really is. It really is incredible. It really is incredible.
1982, you get drafted in the second round. You're in the same draft as Dominique Wilkins and a bunch of really great players, James Worthy. So tell me about that experience for you.
It was funny because honestly, Chris, I had the greatest career in the history of Kansas basketball. Wilt Chamberlain, JoJo White, Danny Manning, all those guys, none of them had a career better than mine. Because I got to Kansas with a lot of hoopla, hype, Mr. Basketball in Indiana, and I didn't get to play. So I had to learn to suck it up. I had to learn how to get through it. And I had to become a role player. And I played, I probably averaged 4 points a game as a freshman and 6 or 7 as a junior, a sophomore, and 9 or 10 as a junior. And then I had a great senior year. And you look back and you go, what a wonderful experience that I got to grow through that. So no one ever saw me as even a draft pick. If anything, back then there were 10 rounds. Maybe I'd be a late pick. No one thought I'd be the 28th pick. Today, that's the first round pick. Back then, that was the 5th pick of the second round. So it was still exciting for me because I had heard I could go as high as 17. I did real well in the Chicago pre-draft camp, and I did well in the Portsmouth Invitational. And a couple of those things showed well for me, and I could run and I could shoot a little bit, so that kind of helped.
Yeah. So you spent a little bit of time in the league, and then you started bouncing around, and was it the ABA, I believe?
No, I played. So when I played in the NBA rule was you were only allowed to keep 12 players, and you could keep 3 as injured reserve, but they were supposed to be hurt. So they called me up, they put me in the office and said, Max, we really do think you're that rare thing, that 6'8" white guard. Because back then, y'all weren't smart enough to be quarterbacks. There were no black quarterbacks.
Right.
Till Doug Williams won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden they go, man, black people, maybe they are smart enough. And now you've got Dick, and there was a great black quarterback in McNabb, and now you got probably the best quarterback in the league is our boy getting it done from the Chiefs.
Right.
So it doesn't matter. They put there was no such thing as a white 2 guard that was my size because we weren't athletic enough. 6'8" white people aren't athletic enough. Mm-hmm. Then Detlef Schrempf comes over at 6'10", and Cerusse Marcelonis is 6'6", and all these Europeans came over and they saw them play their natural position in Europe. So all of a sudden they're going, wow, Luka Doncic wouldn't have been allowed to play guard at 6'7", 6'8" if he'd have come out my year. Right. They had told him to put on weight and become a power forward. Yeah. And they would have been missing out because he's a wonderful player to watch. So that kind of impacted my PT early. But they called me up and they said, Max, we think you could be that white guard, and we're going to give you a guaranteed contract next year. And I said, wow, that's cool. Yeah, we just need you to go on the injured reserve. I'm like, you just got to kind of fake an injury for 10 days and we'll be good. But we're going to guarantee next year's contract. And I said, well, wait a minute, I got to fake an injury so that I can get paid? Man, let me ask you something. What does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? And they looked at me like, what you talking about? And I said, man, I can't compromise just to be in the NBA. And then they said, you'll never play again. So they went from saying I was good enough to guarantee me a contract to saying I'd never play again.
Wow.
And man, by the time I got back to Kansas City from Cleveland, the coach of the Kings at the time was a guy named Cotton Fitzsimmons. He asked me to come down to Kemper Arena and took me in his office and said, Mags, you need to go to Europe till this calms down. I'm like, what calms down? Coach called every team, said you were the worst player on the team, you were the worst guy, last one in practice, first one to leave, that you had a bad attitude. Man, none of that was true except for I would not compromise. That's true. Anything else wasn't true. I was a great teammate. I love my teammates. I was the biggest cheerleader, all that stuff. And, that is the greatest victory of my life was being able to stand up for something that I believed. And the blessing that I got wasn't money and wasn't fame. I always tell people, Chris, the same thing. I talk to a lot of young people. At the end of our combines, I say, if I can give you the best advice, define wealth, don't let it define you. So for me, wealth is my relationship with my God. I serve a risen Savior, so I'm a wealthy man. Wealth is my relationship with my wife because she gives me purpose. My wife is my best friend. She's smoking hot. I can't wait to see her when I get out there. She's my best friend. I'm really that in love with my wife. Wealth is my relationship with my children because they give me relevancy today. I know what drip means. I didn't know. I'm just a typical old white dude. For me to know what the drip means, I got a little something. And then wealth is a relationship with your grandkids, which tells you what the future is going to be. So I have a very wealthy man, and I don't have any money. And the wealth I have is available to anyone if they've got the discipline to go out and get that.
Right.
And that's what we really try to teach these young men. Stop chasing money and fame and stop being so shallow with women and stop treating people the way you treat them and start building some real wealth, which comes from investing in other people. The way you treat your wife, the way you treat your kids, then you're going to have so much more joy. I sleep good at night because I ain't worried about nobody looking at my phone. My wife has all my passcodes. I ain't worried about that. You can read everything about me because and again, it's easy because I look like this. It's not like I'm a good-looking guy like you and I got options. I look like this. I got no chances. I mean, I'm just glad my wife don't let her see this because if she ever knows, I could be in trouble. But no, it's those are facts. I know. So I look at that and quite frankly, had I stayed in the NBA, maybe that wouldn't happen. Maybe I would have made some bad decisions. Maybe because when you're on the road and everybody's out doing something, you start getting tempted. Come on, man, have some drinks with us. Go to the club. Go to the strip club. Go to this. Go to that. And man, you can only put so much in that psyche of yours till you start operating on that. Everybody else does it. And the excuses, we give our wives a great living. They get treated really good. Why can't we have some fun? That assumes you can't have fun with them.
Right.
I mean, there's ain't nothing a woman could do that my wife won't. I mean, my wife is my best friend. So I look at that and go, I've been fortunate by that. So then I went from there to playing the CBA for Phil Jackson.
Okay, got you.
So like I said, I got to play with Phil Jackson, the CBA in Albany, New York,
Right.
where we now have a team called the Albany Patroons. Same team, same uniform, same venue. It's really cool. Then I played in Spain. I played in Belgium. So I got to travel the world, got to experience a lot, and then we just started having babies. And the first one was a really talented tennis player, and she won the NCAA championship in Florida, and a Gator. She's pretty good. And then the second one was a very good basketball player. She's third leading scorer and rebounder in high school history in Florida, and she played at Western Kentucky. And oldest son played at Western Kentucky, and it's also with Jordan Clarkson, and then Courtney Lee and Jeremy Evans at Western, and my youngest son played at Park University in Kansas City, and so I got a chance to experience all of this fun stuff with my kids. And so basketball has been very, very good to me. I'm real happy with what's going on with it.
Definitely. And then you started coaching too. You coached in high school out in Florida.
Well, so when our daughter went down to Florida, we didn't want her to be at IMG by herself. So we went down there as a family, and I was watching my college coach had a son playing in Tampa, and they said they had an 8th grader. I'm like, an 8th grader playing varsity? How can you have an 8th grader playing varsity? Can't you only play 4 years? Like, no, in Florida, because of the other sports like tennis and golf, they let junior high school players play varsity athletics if they're physically gifted enough.
Mm-hmm.
So I told, and normally private schools, because you got to have the junior high and high school in the same building. So I went to watch a game at a school called Bradenton Christian, who was the best team in the state in their class. And my daughter was in the 6th grade, basketball player, and they're going to win a state championship this year. And I watch them play, and I get done. I introduced my coach, and I said to their coach, I said, Jim, you don't know me, but my name is David Magley. I want you to meet my 6th grade daughter. She's better than anybody you got right now. And he had to look at me like, this guy is smoking something. And then from her 7th grade year on, she did not score less than double figures every game. She was unbelievable. She was just she was really good. And
so she played varsity for 6 years?
She played varsity 5 years, and then she only played varsity her 7th grade year for the last couple of games and then the state playoffs, and she still had 100 points as a 7th grader. It was just unbelievable because, the one thing, she had 2 sisters for guards, 2 black girls for guards that were really athletic. They could really defend, and they couldn't make a layup to save their life. So they steal the ball, they go down and miss the layup, and I told Jessica, they're going to steal it, and they're going to miss it. So if you just run hard, you're guaranteed a rebound and a 2 points every time they steal the ball. So she probably got 10, 12 points a game just off that. She had 3,500 points and 2,200 rebounds in high school.
And how tall was she?
Yeah. 6'1".
Yeah.
Both girls are around 6'1". My oldest son is 6'10", and my youngest son's about 6'1".
Yeah. Wow. Great family lineage and dynamics. That's awesome. And
they all play musical instruments.
Really? What age did you start them playing musical? What age?
Well, my wife was a music teacher at school, so they all started around elementary, about 5th, 6th grade. And Jennifer played the violin and the drums. Jessica played the viola and the drums. DJ played the bass clarinet and the drums. And Daniel played the saxophone and the drums. And the drums only because in a small Christian school, you always have somebody to play the bass line and the drums. So if they had too many saxophonists, Daniel had to go play the drums, so they always had a drummer there.
Right. That's great. That's awesome. After you were coaching high school, did you start going into the Canadian Basketball League, the NBLC?
Yeah. What happened was I coached a kid in high school, named Jameson Tipping, whose father owned a health club in Orangeville, Ontario.
Mhm.
And he asked me to come up, and I was there doing business for a Canadian company called Moneris, which was a credit card company with the Royal Bank of Canada and the Bank of Montreal. And I was up there, and I went by their facility, and they said, "Well, listen, we're going to start an academy. And, we love what you do. Can you kind of come up and help a little bit?" So I went up and helped them, and they eventually got Jamal Murray and Vaughn Maker and a lot of the really good players that are in the NBA right now from Canada. And somebody asked, would we want to start our own Canadian pro team? So I didn't have any money to put towards it, but he did. So he started a pro team and made me the GM head coach, and we had some decent success. And then they had a little problem in the league, and they ended up needing somebody to take over as the commissioner. And I got to be the commissioner for a couple of years. And I had one year where I had 340 nights in a Marriott property, and I'm like, I gotta go home. I can't be away this much. This is too much. And you got to see your wife and kids more than 30, 40 times a year, because sometimes my wife would come up, but I just wasn't back in the States enough. I love Canada. I love the NBL Canada, owners, the fans, the players. It was great, but it was just time to come home.
Yeah. And is that where you got the idea to start, the basketball league? And I believe it was NABC before.
Yeah, it was a North American Basketball League, the NBL, the first year.
Mhm.
And we no. I'm sorry. It was a North American. It was NAPB, North American Premier Basketball
Got
League.
it.
And what happened with that was it didn't work out with my partner at the time, so we just decided to part ways. And my wife just had a vision that she believed God said to her to start her own league, take my experience to back her up, and let's see what we can do. So year one was NAPB, and then the last two, now going into three, have been TBL, and it's been with her at the helm. And again, after 40 years of marriage, you learn to respect somebody's opinion pretty good, and she's not been wrong very often. So I've been really happy just to follow her lead.
That's a great dynamic. We got the speed round as we wrap things up. Give me your top 5 Kansas Jayhawks. If you were going to put the best 5 players from Kansas to go against any other, blue blood, North Carolina, Duke, Indiana, you name it. Who are the 5 players that you're going to have on that squad? And you can pick yourself too, obviously.
Okay, well, Wilt Chamberlain's going to be my center. Darnell Valentine, my teammate's going to be the point guard. Danny Manning's going to be the power forward.
Mm-hmm.
JoJo White is going to be the 2 guard, and Tony Guy is going to be the other guard, and I'm going to come off the bench.
You're not going to have the truth in there?
No, because somebody's got to be able to sacrifice, and I'm the only one in that group that would do that. Because you got to have somebody willing to accept that. Tony started every game of his career at Kansas. He was my freshman roommate and senior co-captain and best friend, and I give my spot to him because he's a flat winner. And if I could come in, what I do that none of those guys do though is I could really catch and shoot.
Right.
So they're all playmakers except for Wilt, but they're all playmakers. So if I came in as a stretch the floor guy, that'd be a pretty good team.
Yeah. Were you a 1-2 step guy, or were you a hop guy off the catch and shoot?
Well, 1-2. I'm more of a rhythm step, catch and shoot. And I really like, believe it or not, shooting going to my left more than my right. I like stringing my left leg in to shoot more than my right leg. It seemed a little bit harder to square that way.
Yeah, you would have probably loved to play in today's era, huh? With the open floor and the pace and space and the emphasis on the 3-point shot.
Can you imagine? I mean, playing with the 3-point line that's as close as theirs is with the shot clock. Listen, we were loaded at Kansas, but teams in the Big 8 could play with us because you could slow it down. You could hold the ball for a minute if you wanted to, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. So teams would shrink the game on us and make it a 35, 45-point game. Boring as heck to watch. And then we'd play Carolina and Indiana and Michigan State, and they'd get up and down the court. It was great. So we always did well against other teams out of conference because they all had talent and they want to get up and down the court and run.
Yeah. It's an interesting dynamic. I would love to see what the players back then do now and the sort of systems and just the whole nuances of the new game and the new era. I think the players would fit in extremely well because they were so fundamentally sound and just a great thing if we were able to watch that.
Well, I think one of my favorite players, one of my favorite performances in the history of the game happened several years ago when Klay Thompson scored 61 points on 11 dribbles.
Yeah.
And you look at that and you go, in that same year, James Harden dribbled more in the playoffs than the starting five of Golden State in one game.
Right.
So one player took more dribbles than the starting lineup of five guys. And you wonder why TV ratings were down in the NBA before COVID hit.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an appealing game anymore. There's too much stars, too much isolation. I mean, you watch kids work out. I never knew cones could play defense. Ever drill around cones and it's cones this and it's cones that. Man, we played a lot of catch and shoot dribbles, games to play, and then we played.
Right.
And you know how you learn how to drive? You drove around somebody.
Yeah.
We played a lot more pickup and a lot less organized with coaches there. We never played 6 games in a weekend in AAU. We played 20 games against grown men where if you lost, you had to sit out. There was a consequence every time we played. That's why I think the Europeans are catching us.
Right.
Luka, can you imagine if I was 23, 24 playing in Spain like I did, and Luka came in at 16, I'd have busted Luka's tail.
You're right.
17, he'd know how to armbar me and keep me up. 18, he's probably better than me. 19, he's rookie of the year. That's what happens. Giannis, he wasn't very good at 16 playing against grown men. They didn't care about him. 19, he's pretty good. Comes to the NBA, he's NBA ready. And we make the mistake here in North America, we reclassify our kids so they can even play younger, so they can look better in their age group.
Right.
Nobody wants to get exposed. We got to expose these kids. Let them know that. My brother used to say, while you're hitting that tennis ball, someone's putting in work you don't know.
Yeah.
While you're playing baseball, so not that I'm against playing all the sports, but his story was you can play all 3 sports, but you better play basketball every night because somebody's putting in work that you're not.
Right.
And that's just how it worked. In my family, growing up, we all played basketball. We played all the sports, but basketball was every day because we thought somebody was going to either catch us or be better than us because they were working. We didn't know what other people looked like. We just went out and put our work in.
It's interesting because even my era, I was talking to my assistant coach today, and all these kids work out now. They just work out and they don't play. When I was in high school, we hardly ever worked out and just went out and shot, 500 jumpers or whatever. We always just played. We were going to play 21 or we were going to play one-on-one or we were going to play, but we never really worked out, and I graduated in 2001, but we just never worked out. We just played so much and we played outside a lot or found open gyms, stuff like that. But it's just an interesting era. I mean, the kids are skilled these days. You can't knock that, but the competitive nature definitely, isn't.
I think that I think the kids are more skilled today.
Oh yeah.
Because they work on their skills more.
Right.
I don't think they catch and shoot as well. I see 1,000 kids this summer. I don't see 10 kids that can catch and shoot.
Yeah.
They don't even know the concept. They got to put the ball on the floor because they work so hard at that. I think the kids are better athletes today because there's better training, better diets, they're better athletes than we were.
Yep.
I don't know if they got the same kind of dog we had.
No.
That's where you can't judge it. So when they say Larry Bird wouldn't be athletic enough to play in this league, come on, man. Larry Bird would be dominating this league just like he did when I played. Magic Johnson, there ain't no 6'9" guards doing what Magic did. LeBron is more like Magic than he is like Michael. That's who you should be comparing him to.
Mm.
He ain't like Michael. He's like Magic. He's 6'9" guard. He's seeing the court, getting other people involved. He's not the lead scorer. He's the lead guard. But the guys I played, to say Dominique Wilkins wasn't an athlete, man, you lying.
Right.
You fibbing at that point. We had some great athletes, but as a man, we didn't train like they train today. It's just different. It's a different day in the way they train.
Right. A couple more things. You think the KD, Kyrie, and James Harden thing will work out in Brooklyn? And by the time this airs, there might be a trade, but who knows?
I think they'll want it to. But Harden hasn't gotten it done with any of the guards that were less selfish than KD. I mean,
Right.
come on now, Chris Paul is a pure point guard, and he couldn't get it done with Chris Paul. KD's awfully good. People say, well, they're going to fight over the ball, Harden and Chris Paul. Hey, man, KD gets the rebound. He ain't giving it to either one of those two. He's
Yeah.
dribbling it up himself. So you've got three guys that need the ball. That's a lot. When KD was with Golden State, Klay doesn't need the ball. He gets the ball and he scores, but he doesn't hold on to it.
Yeah.
Steph holds on to it a little bit because he runs the show, and KD. And then Draymond, he's the most overlooked player in the league. He's people try to compare him to like Barkley. He's more like Rodman. He just makes everybody better. Gets the rebound, doesn't care about his own points, great passer. And I look at that and go, they'd be better fit someplace like that. And again, I would say nothing bad about any of them, except for I think it's a really interesting mix for them to pull that off.
Definitely. You're a big social media guy. I mean, every time I look up, I see your posts, and I love following everything that you've been doing. You've been all around, traveling, trying to promote the league and things like that with Steve Franchise. And, I seen you with Kendrick Perkins out in Texas and stuff like that. So tell me how you've been able to manage all this social media.
Well, number one, I don't have much of a life. This is all I do.
Yep.
And a lot of my posts are done. They're pre-done in the evening. So I'll with Instagram, you can kind of save your post. So I'll save all my posts. And I don't mean to be obnoxious, but I don't know how to I don't have the time to do individual posts for each of the different things. So one post goes out to everything. So that, because in my mind, I'm thinking there's somebody at LinkedIn that isn't following me on Facebook, and there's somebody, so everybody gets the same post. I know it seems like a lot, and people that follow me in multiple places are going, dang, I don't know. But I do get a lot of, man, y'all look like you're doing really good. So if the objective is for exposure and to get branding, we're up to probably 80,000 aggregate followers on all the different sites. And they seem to be engaged with it. And the wonderful thing is, if it's too much, somebody can opt out of some of that stuff.
Well,
So,
I don't think it's too much.
think
I would say keep posting more. I mean, that's the only way that things are going to be, seen out there. That's the only way you're going to stay in people's minds and people's brains. And every time you get that impression, there's going to be another. Like, I have a social media coach. Like, I've got a lady down that used to play at Oregon, and she's down in LA. But she runs a lot of my social media, and she puts together things for me to put out and stuff like that, because you have to continue to put the content out there. And if you don't, well, it's not going to get seen. I think you're on mute, Coach.
we did. I'm fortunate that I've got a lot of teams that do some cool social media, and I repost it. And then we just hired a new director of marketing, and he does great videos. I mean, a lot of the stuff you're seeing that we generate with Steve Francis, we do ourselves. So he press conference, and he did a little video of the intro, and he's just really, really creative, and he's giving me better graphics to work with. And I got to tell you, Steve Francis has been amazing. I mean, just been unbelievable. He's not just very well known, he has a special grace about him. And if you walk by him in a motel and you say, hey, man, you Steve Francis? He said, yeah, man, where you from? He said, I'm from Cali. Oh, man, I used to love going to Cali. Where in Cali are you from? He would ask you questions about you.
Right.
And you would say, hey, did you just buy a TBL team? My brother's the commissioner. Wiley's your brother. And he would just go in. And I'm like, we're trying to get this meeting done. You realize if you want to get a meeting done with Steve, you got to go in a closed room, because he's so gracious to everybody that walks by. And that's special. A lot of these NBA guys, man, they've been told how great they are their whole life. Steve didn't grow up like that. Steve has a GED. He didn't graduate from high school. He didn't play his senior year because his mom died. He got in a bad place. He tells his story. Selling baggies on the street, and somebody saw him playing and sent him out to San Jacinto Junior College in Pasadena, Texas. They went undefeated, won a national championship. Homesick, went back home to Maryland, won another undefeated national championship, Maryland picks him up, plays 1 year, and he's in the NBA. But he didn't see any of that coming, so he didn't grow up with a silver spoon in his mouth. He has much more grace for everybody, and he's been really good for us. We've been really happy, and we've gotten a lot of media off him because it's pretty cool that he's in.
Definitely. Last couple of things. One, we're about into episode 85 here on the Beyond the Bucket show. And I always ask my guest, who do you want to see on Beyond the Buckets? And before you answer that, you got to make the connection to get them on the show.
Well, I think ultimately it would be interesting to talk to one of the females in our league, whether it's our CEO. We have a female GM head coach of the Dallas team, which is unique. Female owner of the Jamestown Jackals, who does an amazing job, Kayla Crosby. We've got some female referees. We're going to have an all-female crew this year that never happened before. So we're really about diversity, and it's diversity all the way around the board. So I think that would be interesting to people of how females are able to break in and add value. And I think it's a great thing that they're doing. Again, too many people that look like me are afraid of change because we've been on the top of the food chain for a long time.
Right.
If you embrace it, there's a spot for everybody.
No, I love that. I coach girls varsity out here in the Bay Area. And, I'm always trying to promote female, whether that be athletics, anything, empowerment in general. So I appreciate that. And you have to set that up for me. Last thing, where can everybody follow you? I'll put everything in the show notes so they can follow you in the TBL, but plug anything that you got right now.
Well, I just think that you can follow us on all the social media platforms, the Basketball League on Facebook, Keep Basketball League on Instagram, and TBL Pro League on Twitter. Obviously, I didn't know what I was doing. I set those up. Should have had all three the same. You can email us at info@thebasketballleague.net. You can contact me by my personal cell phone, 941-685-5965. This is our baby. We work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so we're not afraid of anybody calling us anytime. I would just say that the last thing before we hang up, Chris, is that use basketball, use your sport. Don't let it use you. Don't be so hung up on success that you lose the fact that you get a free education if you go to college, that you lose the opportunity to impact a life because you're a celebrity. A day's coming when that's going to change, and if you do that the right way, the sky truly is the limit for you. And I just think that would be my encouragement to anyone playing ball, starting young, and play for the right reason. Don't be to be a star. If that's to be, it'll be. If it's not, you can still have a great career and a great enjoyment with that.
Definitely. Well, Coach, thank you for joining the program, man. I know you're a super busy guy, but I really appreciate you making time.
Be blessed, my friend. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you for listening to the Beyond the Buckets podcast. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and share the show with your friends. And until next time, take care.